Hello, I'm Debbie Bell-Hosking for FinextraTV, and I'm joined by John Trapani of Appian, and we're talking about the evolution of AI. So John, lovely to have you here in our Finextra studio.
Thank you, Debbie. I'm pleased to be here.
And of course, a lovely topic. There's a lot of it around at the moment, and I mentioned there in the introduction the evolution of AI. And historically, it's not uncommon to talk about automated technology. But if I can ask you how you think the use of AI has evolved from existing systems like algorithmic trading.
So it's an interesting question. If you think about the last, let's say, 25 years of industrial IT, a lot of it's been marked by an increasing deployment of technologies to do things at scale that would be hard for people. It wasn't too long ago when you mentioned algorithmic trading, when quants working with quadratic equations were doing things that would be hard for people to do by hand, right? 10 or 15 years ago, that morphed into the application of machine learning, right? So machine learning is not the AI I think we're going to talk about a lot today, but it was a style of artificial intelligence that helped machines identify patterns at a scale that would be difficult for humans to do. But they were still organized around big scale, spotting the needle in the haystack kind of problems. And algorithmic trading is a good example of how these things were traditionally used. I think what's changing now is the tools that are available to people are allowing them to do more human-oriented tasks, the kinds of things like reading and interpreting a document and summarizing the content, and helping to keep humans away from the drudgery of some of their work. And it's not really a scale problem in that same respect. It's about returning time to humans so that you can harness their human intellect to make decisions and interpret information without having to also have them do copying and pasting out of a document and into a system.
And we'll get onto that more human-led AI in a moment. But first of all, can I ask you, things have changed so quickly. How different do you believe that the approaches in education should be when it comes to a public AI as opposed or compared to a private AI?
So for you and me as individuals, I think we're fine to use public AI. We can go to, pick your ChatGPT or equivalent, right? You and I at home doing some research, asking some questions, having some fun, public AI is fine. If you're running a regulated business in particular, I think it's critically important that you focus on tools that give you the privacy, the compliance boundary around what that AI will do with any data or any questions you ask of it. Cybersecurity, risk management, these are critical functions for, let's just say, banks as a great example. It's really important that if you're going to be deploying AI into these organizations, you've got a private model that is not being shared, either the models you're building, the data that you're allowing it to process. And I think you asked about education. I think making sure that everyone understands the difference between I'm going to pull ChatGPT into my work stream and have people potentially expose my company data to the public, because data does leak sometimes, as opposed to I have a private model that lives within a boundary I've already validated as safe and secure, so I can feel comfortable giving it access to all the data it needs to actually transform my business.
So it's that word exposure that's actually hanging in the air for me, is always being aware of how exposed your data is. And let's go back to the human-led discussion that we had moments earlier. How can organizations get that balance right between your human independent thinking, reliance on AI, or less reliant on AI, versus that AI dominant reliance?
So I'll preface by saying I think this is a continuum that's going to evolve to more AI independence over time, but I don't think we're there yet. I think that maybe the right balance to strike today is that you can trust an awful lot of AI capabilities to solve problems that would have been unthinkable 3 or 5 years ago. So reliably extracting content, I keep using this example, but reliably extracting content from documents and saving humans the time of going through line by line and finding things. AI is now very, very good at that. Now, that's not necessarily a critical decision upon which the fate of the world rests. So as long as you have humans who are looking over the AI's shoulder and validating that, at least on a sampling basis, the work the AI is doing is appropriate, I think that's fine to do today. Over time, I think what we'll see, though, is as trust rises in the output of different AI capabilities, I think it's going to be natural for humans to play more of a final decision maker role and less of a, I have to babysit this machine. And even now, compared to 3 or 5 years ago, there's an awful lot less babysitting that has to go on because the technology has advanced to the point where if you give it the low to moderate risk activities to focus on, like maybe don't have it make final credit decisions about lending without human oversight. I don't think anyone's there yet. But I could foresee a time in 5 years from now where we might be there.
Right. So that is interesting. So you feel that, because at the moment people are, looking at where that AI is learning from, what data is it relying on, and you're feeling like that babysitting will soon change in a way and allow the humans to freedom to do more decision-making tasks?
Yeah, I think the way I like to think about it is right now it is super important to have AI participate as a worker inside of a process that is still staffed and governed by humans. So you're asking your human workers to do less manual drudgery because AI is now very good at doing a lot of those tasks. But you still have humans at critical parts of the workflow to make sure that any final decisions that are made, any judgments that have to be made, they can be informed by AI, but not made by AI. But I do think over time that's going to transition to a level of trust where there are probably big sections of work that AI will be reliably very good at, that humans can step back and act more as a sampling and quality assurance mechanism and not as a I'm involved in every decision kind of role. Does that make sense?
It does, and it's such an interesting conversation. Thank you for bringing it here into our Finextra studio. Thank you, John.
Thank you so much for having me.